Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. It is Tuesday, and that means we talk to Omar, the real estate entrepreneur. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. What's up, Michael? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. So we had technical difficulties, folks. We usually do this from his PC. Now we're doing it on his phone. This is what my experts do. They just make it happen. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
So the first thing I want to talk about is I read an article today talking about 10 cities where it makes sense to rent versus own. Cities in Florida, California, like Riverside down by you is one of those cities, right? Prices have gone up so much, it makes more sense to rent. I want to talk about in general, right?
Okay.
It's hard to buy a home today as a first-time home buyer. So when somebody calls you up or calls up your brokerage and say, hey, I'm moving to Southern California, the high desert, or I want to get my first home, how does that conversation go? Because it's tough today. So what are some things you guys talk about?
Well, I mean, you gotta remember, like, what kind of job does the person have?
Mm-hmm.
That's like number one, because with money being lent so cheaply right now, like low interest rate and everything else. When somebody comes to me and they say, hey, they want to buy a house and they're renting.
Yeah.
Well, the rent's substantially higher right now.
Okay.
And the real reason I ask, and the whole team does too, is like, okay, how much can you afford, or how much are you going to be okay with spending on a mortgage payment versus the money that you're bringing in? And is it a double income, and are you part-time, full-time? There's a lot of scenarios there. I'm not the lender. I just been doing it long enough that it does make sense.
Yeah.
And if they all want to invest, everybody wants to invest, even if they're in an apartment. Okay. Yeah. They want to invest, or they want to own an investment property. And sometimes I even let them know, why don't your rent's so cheap now, don't buy a house, go buy a rental property, put somebody in there.
Right.
And then use it for your tax benefit. Plus you have a small, cash flow coming in, and stay where you're at. Because I know some people that are paying $1,000 a month in rent, and they sign like a 2-year lease with the landlord. I'm like, that's cheap.
that's money right there. Yeah. Because if your full mortgage payment, taxes, insurance, maintenance, I don't know, it could be 15, 16, 1700. Yeah, it would make sense. It'd be cheaper to rent. And I live in a part of the world, right? The Silicon Valley, where I'm very clear with folks, right? When people ask me all the time, what's your opinion about the Bay Area? I'm like, it's nuts. Right. I tried to cash flow here 20 years ago and it didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense as a rental area. Right. You're betting on appreciation. And that's
you really are.
That's not what I'm comfortable doing. Right. But still, a lot of people go, hey, I'm coming to the Valley. I that. Should I buy now? And what I tell them is it's kind of the same thing Olivia and I did 20 years ago. What's the plan? If you're going to be here for 20 years, go for it, right? And that was a plan for us, right? We were moving to a school district, so our daughter, who was in first grade at the time, could be in that school district until she graduated high school. So that's why we bought. We bought a crazy expensive at the time. We stretched, we got uncomfortable, but that was the thing. If the other answer was, hey, we were going to be, my Teresa, what is her name, was a junior, for example. If I don't think it would have made sense. 2 years, all right, the Valley, very ups and downs, and it really can go bonkers here. So like what I tell people first in the Valley is, how long are you going to stay there, right? If the answer is 8 years or more, doesn't really matter. If it's under 8 years, it's tough. If it's under 4 years, it's like, whoo, I don't know if I'd commit $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 for a down payment. I think I might rent, and like you say, go buy rentals elsewhere. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, because if you think about that, and I did the numbers, Michael, before, and even still, it's like if you think about it, if you rent and you negotiate with the landlord to pay 12 months or 24 months up front, you don't have to have maintenance on that property, right? The landlord takes care of it. If you are, if something happens, well, you're already paid up for 24 months.
Yeah.
I'm saying in that avenue. And they don't have to worry about property taxes or anything else. But and if you're only going to be in a certain area for 2, 3, 4 years, in your area, you probably wouldn't want to buy, because in 4 years, are you going to really appreciate when you're buying this high right now?
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's very high now, but hey, it was very high last year and it still goes higher. So what do I know? But to me, it doesn't make sense financially, right? Because again, folks, when you're selling a home, right, if you're going to get into a house for 2 or 3 or 4 years, yes, the last year worked, and frankly, we said it would, right? We called appreciation. We didn't call 21, but we called appreciation. There's 6% selling costs, 6-7% closing, all of that. Some years it doesn't. It normal markets are like 3-4%, right? So
Right.
there are selling costs, and if the plan, right, maybe if you're going to house hack, that's another, right. Basically, what I want to see from people is what's the plan. If the
Okay.
plan is I'm going to live there like we did for 15 years, then go ahead. Doesn't really matter. If the plan is, hey, I'm going to buy a cheap rental or I'm going to buy a duplex, I'm going to live in it for 2 years, and then I'm going to move and it's going to all become a rental. Okay, right. It's a plan. But I hate it when I hear people, hey, my company just went public, or I just got my yearly RSUs. The stock market's crazy. I'm going to go buy a house just cause. I'm like, that's an interesting idea. But it may not work out, right?
Yeah, just cause no.
Yeah.
You have to have a plan for it,
Yeah.
I know when you bought your first place, I'm sure you already had your plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When I bought my first place, I knew that I was going to keep it for as long as I could,
right,
and rent it out. I mean, that was my plan from the very beginning. I didn't know when the second home was going to happen or the third home, or any investment properties when I was living there at all. I didn't. I was like, okay, I like this. And then I started doing more research, and then I had a plan on what I want to accomplish.
Yeah. That's the big thing I think I want to take from this conversation, folks, is if you're going to commit to buying something in a high priced area, I want to know the plan, right? So every time all of you have asked me, what should I do in the Bay Area? What should I do in San Francisco, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Los Gatos, Los Altos, Fremont, Milpitas? The list goes on and on and on. I want to hear about your 10-year plan. If the 10-year plan includes you not being in California at some point, then I don't know. And you don't have to own. I love home ownership. It's the path to a better future, but sometimes short term, it's not right for everybody in every circumstance. I guess that's what I wanted to say.
That's spot on too, because it's really not the perfect path for everybody. It really is.
And then again, the other thing we must realize is the last year or so, it's been ridiculously tough, right? Bidding wars, very low supply. The other thing I would tell you is don't settle. Everybody who I've known over the last 20 years who settled, right? They bought the crib, but it wasn't the one. They always seem to have buyer's remorse very quickly. Like, oh, I wish we would have held out for this. And oh, I wish I would have held out for that. Settling is tough because you're going to be in there forever, or, theoretically a long time. So that's the other thing I would warn against is good enough, right?
Yeah, and that's a good note there, Michael, because when you settle on your home, okay, if you are only making a certain amount of money and you settle, that's kind of what I think you're meaning, because at the same time, like, you get into a house, it's a level, it's another avenue that pushes you, like us as entrepreneurs. That last house I bought, the one I'm in now, it pushed me beyond belief to go and, okay, I need to accomplish more,
right?
Because I have to be the person that is here, if that makes sense. I bought it well. I did buy it well in 2016. So it was, it was not a lower market, but it was still expensive for the time. But now, now it's awesome, right? Because of appreciation. But at the time, it's like, oh man, it was a $500,000 house,
yeah,
550 or something like that. And now it's like, oh, that's nothing. It feels different.
Yeah.
But it does push you, providing you're in that industry that you're able to go get pushed and go make more money for yourself. And this is why it's key for the one rental at a time. Like after that.
Yeah. What I would tell folks today, right, looking for that owner occupant is have a 10-year plan and kind of don't settle, right? I do think more supply is coming. People who had unrealistic asking prices are having price drops, days on market are expanding. I think the market is turning in your behavior. And this is speaking to the owner occupants out there. I think it's true for investors as well. I just feel for people that I sometimes can hear it in their voice. or I see it in their comments. And I just want them to
Right.
know that homeownership is great. It is worth it. It is the path to a better future. Have a plan, especially if you're in a high priced market, and don't settle, right? You are going to live there for quite a while. And it's hard. It's probably supposed to be hard. So you can remember and feel good about it when it's done. So any closing thoughts on this, Omar? What's going on in the high desert? Maybe tell us a little bit about the high desert market.
Yeah, the market right now is it's still staying pretty solid with the median home price, 360, 365, 355. We've seen a little bit of a decrease because of the increase of houses.
Yeah.
We're up to 1,000. We're up to 1,000 in our inventory.
And what were
in our
we
area.
last February, like February, March? What was the low, like 400?
Yeah, we were at yeah, we were at 399. I don't think
Okay.
we got less than 399. So
More than
it was
double.
like 410, 415. Oh yeah. Yeah,
More
more
than-
than doubled. Buyers have more choices.
I love
and
it. I've been
that's a
calling
good
it.
thing because
Yes.
yes, we've been talking about this. It's going to change, and it's also going to be able to have. We're going to be able to create and have more opportunities, us as investors,
Correct.
everywhere.
Yeah, because the
Everywhere.
sellers, the beauty of real estate investing when you're an investor and you do the work is you almost build a sixth sense to find the motivated seller, right?
Yes.
What I challenged my students to do the other day in the daily financial news is play with your spreadsheet, right? If you're one of my students, you have a spreadsheet, you built it. I want you to adjust the offer price, right? If it's listed at 360, like your median, how low do you have to go to make the yield go up 1%? It's a fun exercise. So if you're one of my students, don't forget I've asked for that. Do that. It's a lot of fun. So Omar, how can people follow you, get part of your world?
Guys, just follow me on IG, Omar_Alfaro. That's the best place to get a hold of me, or just shoot me a message.
Very cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.